Hey guys, this is another episode with a guest. This is Big D from the podcast Guess What, You're Wrong. Yeah, so he came on. He basically responded to a post I did on Reddit that was like, "Hey, anybody have any personal stories about woke issues, like falling outs with anybody?" And he actually did in his personal life. I mean, I didn't really drill. I'd like to hear more about those, but they might be touchy. But anyway, I did ask him about them. So, yeah, thanks to him for coming on, and I may go on his podcast soon, or I don't know. Uh, but follow me on the socials so you can see if and when I go on his podcast. It's a horror podcast, I guess. He doesn't really talk about topical stuff like we did, but, yeah, he had, interesting stories, so check it out. Uh, yeah. I don't know what else you want me to say. Like, what am I, I shouldn't have to do this intro, but I always forget to intro people when I'm talking to them. So, anyway, go fuck yourself and, yeah.
Okay, cool. So you have like a podcast?
Yeah, I do. I have a horror movie podcast
Oh, okay.
where we just watch a specific horror movie and ruin the hell out of it, so that anybody that's never watched it gets completely spoiled.
Oh, that's
it.
cool. Yeah, do you talk about culture issues on there or just like horror stuff?
I make references from time to time because horror movies, whichever era they came out in, seem to directly reflect what's going on in the culture at the time. So
Yeah.
most of the time it's inadvertent or sideways comments, something like that, um, concerning culture, but they're definitely in there.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, have you talked about yeah, because I had posted something on Reddit about talking about like woke issues
Yeah.
and you responded, so I don't know if you have, I guess you referenced those on your
Yeah. Well, actually, initially, when I first started my podcast, initially it was going to be talking about cultural issues, um, the division, and talking to different people about how we can remedy that division. But it just
Oh yeah.
gets too heated.
Yeah.
There's not enough people that want to have Discord and talk. Either one side or the other always wants to start an argument, and that's why I fell to horror movies, because everybody can watch and enjoy a horror movie, and it doesn't matter what your cultural beliefs are or your political or religious beliefs.
Yeah.
We can watch and agree that it's either a crappy movie or it's a good movie.
Yeah, what's your podcast called?
Guess what? You're wrong.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just
Yeah, I
guess
think
what, you're wrong.
that was on your Discord something.
Yeah. That's my Discord. I do a lot of people that subscribe to my Discord. They are guests that come on as guests from time to time. So I go ahead and post what movies are coming up. I try to keep up. Sometimes I don't. Um, Sometimes people prefer to use Discord. Sometimes people use Facebook Messenger or
Hmm.
phone calls, or Skype,
Oh
which
yeah.
is all fine. So
Yeah, I'm kind of new to Discord. I mean, I'm in a couple different podcast Discords and one like it's one podcast is an anti-woke podcast called Disaffected, and it's pretty unfiltered, but then there's another one that, well, I guess another one that's also sort of anti-woke libertarian thing, and they kind of seem more worried that Discord will ban them at any time.
Yeah.
Like, which I didn't really know how
That
sensitive it
I'm
was
not
here.
sure. I mean, I know Discord has a huge. I mean, you can do a lot of things in Discord. There's chats. You can have specific rooms. You know, for the things that I use it for, um, I'm not gonna. I mean, even though I may say things while I'm recording that the populace may not necessarily agree with, I don't think I'm gonna get banned from Discord anytime soon. But there definitely are.
Yeah.
I have seen groups out there that in their chat, they have a lot in that chat where, yeah, if there's a Discord overlord, they may be keeping an eye on them.
Yeah, like the one channel they were saying, like, it's like if you bring in somebody that reports you, then it happens. But I don't
Yeah,
think. Well, I don't know,
gotta
but I
have
don't think
somebody
there's. Yeah.
gotta have somebody tattle on you first.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
that's how
mean,
it usually goes.
I was in. Well, I guess the first Discord I was in was called Counterweight, and that was like a critical of woke thing, but it was like a couple of years ago, and they posted a thing like, "Hey, more people are joining, so just like be careful. They may be
Yeah,
infiltrators or something." But
yeah. Usually when they're small, you can get away with saying things, but as it grows, you gotta be careful of people coming in and saying things or
yeah,
reporting you on things that are said. Yeah, I get that a lot. I mean, it's the same thing on pretty much any social media on Facebook, Instagram. If you get reported from somebody because they don't like something you posted,
yeah,
that's you get a suspension notice or I get those on Twitter all the time. You've been temporarily suspended for 3 days because your post went against our guidelines. Because I
uh,
called somebody a retard or something. I don't know. You know.
yeah.
So
They
you're up in New York.
yeah.
Oh boy, in the city or in the like outside?
I'm in Brooklyn now.
Yeah. Well, you're in the heart of it, dude.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I moved here like a year or two before the pandemic, and
Uh,
I was in Philadelphia for a couple years before that, and I guess it seems pretty similar, like mostly left wing, and I mean, I don't know, maybe because I'm older, I don't hang around a ton of like woke people, I guess, but yeah, I see it. I mean, I don't know.
yeah, I deal with it. Literally, I deal with it every day in my work.
Oh,
I do field service work, so I'm always at a different hospital, different pharmacy, or something like that, and always, it's like, okay, at these people I'm talking to, you go in uh, some of these college campuses you go to. There's always got a big sign that says, here in this lab we love is love, and all immigrants are welcome, and gender is not important. It's always got a bunch of stuff on it, and
yeah.
I just got to go, okay, go in here and do my job and get at.
Yeah, so you deliver stuff or?
No, I do certifications and repairs of laboratory equipment, biological safety equipment.
Okay.
Always in hospitals and college labs and pharmaceutical manufacturing places, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, my siblings work at hospitals, and I don't really think they've encountered that yet. Like, although they're in like South Jersey, but
I think in hospitals, it's a little different. Um, well, I think now it's I think there's a lot of topics within the woke culture that are affecting hospitals now.
Yeah.
But I think early on it was the whole COVID thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you had the people that were on the front lines in the hospital, the nurses and the doctors. They really didn't know what the hell was going on. They were like, they know what the government's telling them. They know what the CDC is saying and everything. And they're trying, and for the most part, I think that they tried to do their best, with what they had. Um, but then it came around to the vaccination. Who's vaccinated, who's not. So they had to deal with that
Yeah.
whole woke movement with the vaccination. So I think, hospitals, they deal with their own, I say, sliver of the woke culture.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really expect it to get so political with the I know there were flu shots before, but they were never like I'm a good person because I got a flu shot. It was never like that. It was like uh well, I mean, at the start of the pandemic, I got it more because I was like, all right, everyone's freaking out, everyone's not sure what's going on. But then I just kept going, and now it's still like there's still like a percentage of people here in the city where like I don't know if they'll ever give masking up. They just do
Yeah,
it still.
yeah, yeah. The whole jab thing got so politicized. Now, I'm a libertarian, and I really lean more towards an anarcho-capitalist kind of side of libertarianism, where I don't care what you do, but anytime the government comes in and says, "Here, this is for your best. This is for the best thing for you to do," I'm going to question it.
Yeah.
And because the government comes in and says, "We need you to do this to protect everybody," uh, I kind of shy away from it, immediately.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess that was more the I don't know, yeah, like I guess the whole do this to protect maybe if you come across somebody that's compromised, maybe what if it's like all this hypothetical stuff like and it was like, well, that I mean every flu season that would have been the case too. I mean,
Yeah, yeah. And I didn't buy into the whole um, vaccination controversy that was going on because I I I, I question the government on anything that they do.
yeah.
So I mean, it wasn't something new or something that I just chose. It's anytime the government comes to me and says, "Hey, this is something important," I question it because it's coming from the government, the state. You know.
Yeah. And it was like also the whole big pharma
Oh yeah,
which everybody was
billions
like,
of taxpayer dollars.
yeah, that is a whole like I guess I talked to that with that other uh podcast that called The Dim Side she was on and she's I guess libertarian too and like yeah, and me and my friend also talk about what is it that makes like it's just weird like people to us it's like so obvious you would question all that stuff, but a lot of people just it's just kind of weird like what makes a person question the government.
Yeah, I think for the most part, uh, for a long, long time, um, the state, the federal government has been building a, I want to say, a dumbed down populace. You know, they're building a populace that is more dependent on them,
Yeah.
more and more and more. I mean, that's why our social programs are almost busted because there's so many people on welfare, food stamps, health, all that good stuff. And I think that was done by design because they've created a whole population of people that now, whenever the government says something, they just fall in line and say, okay. They don't
Yeah.
question it. Um, I think honestly, I think that that's almost half of the population.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess you never know because, like, most people don't speak out, even if they are skeptical, and they just kind
Yeah.
of keep their head down.
Yeah, most people just go with status quo. They just keep doing what they're doing. Most people, especially people that disagree, especially nowadays, they don't want to say anything because they're afraid of getting fired or of getting canceled, of their kids being bullied in school because of it, or something happening with their teachers. There's so much stuff that this woke culture has directly touched so many aspects of our life. People are scared.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was like, I guess I started noticing the woke stuff creeping in. Like, I guess things started to get more progressive leading up to, like, 2016,
Yeah.
and then over the pandemic, like, I mean, when the Black Lives Matter stuff started, like, I was like blown away by everybody immediately was like, all right, I have to post a black square now. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, people that, like, I
And
would never expect to just knee jerk do that. It was weird, but
yeah, I that whole black square thing on social media, I didn't understand that. I
no.
mean, what if you, let's talk about Black Lives Matter. This was a huge movement that grew out of the death of George Floyd. As horrendous as it was, um, regardless of the circumstances surrounding that death, it was horrendous.
Yeah.
Any human being that dies like that, I don't care if it's black, white, man, woman, whatever, it's horrendous. I think every sane person can agree with that.
Yeah.
But then BLM grew out of that, and it allowed them for the summer of love. When cities were burning and portions of cities were being taken over, it allowed those people to get away with it. You know, because of the woke culture. You can't say nothing, to them. They're burning cars and buildings, but you can't say anything because
Yeah.
it's racist. A black man was killed by police. You can't do anything about that. You got to let them do what they got to vent. Come on, really?
Yeah. And, like, I mean, the first thing, like, I noticed because, like, I don't know, it just seemed like, I guess the thing that I most noticed was, like, these are the white people that are going out and, like, protesting or whatever, like, are people that, like, don't hang out in those black communities, like, in here, or, like,
Did
they
you notice
really,
that?
yeah, I mean, they're just not. So it was almost like, oh, this is like a class thing, maybe, like, where college kids, like, I guess it could be any race, but I guess mostly the white ones around wherever. Like, but a lot of people would be like, what's going on? Like, see all that happen. I don't know.
Yeah, and and this is the thing that I couldn't understand. For so many years, blacks fought for equality. They wanted to be able to live their lives like everybody else, which they should be able to without any repercussions at all. For so many years, they fought for that, and all it took was for one black man to get killed by the police, and now all of a sudden we're back to spoiled, rich white people talking for them, not letting them talk
Yeah.
for themselves anymore. That was kind of okay, something interesting. And it's the same thing that's going on now with this whole the whole trans thing.
Yeah.
Women have fought for so long to be recognized as equal in our society. And now, basically, what it is you have um, men are proving, are now seemingly are proving to women that men can do everything better than a woman, even being a woman.
Yeah.
you know, and that is ridiculous. With this whole Dylan Mulvaney thing and Bud Light and Nike and all this stuff that he's getting. It's ridiculous. He celebrates his 365 days of girlhood. I think it's disrespectful to women, and I think women should be pissed. Women should not should be outraged about this.
Yeah, there's like some outspoken women like that aren't afraid to be called turfs or whatever, but it's like a few of them, but I don't know why, but like it took the Bud Light thing for people to get really upset. Like I just think it was one thing too many. Like I know Rogan would other people like Rogan is like, "Oh, who cares?" It's like but it's just like the last straw kind of. Like it's like, "All right, come on." I don't know.
Well, to be honest with you, anybody with some taste buds has been boycotting Bud Light for 20 odd years now.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, Bud Light's not a very good beer to begin with. But one thing, I mean, I'm not pissed off for Bud Light for doing it. I mean, they're their own business. Do what you want to do. But with that, you're going to take the consequences when you make a stupid mistake. You know, they've already lost what, like $1.2 billion in revenue just in a week. I mean, come on. You know,
Yeah.
know who buys your beer, who buys Bud Light. You know, you should know your audience, know your crowd that you're selling to before you start doing things like this.
Yeah, I think it's like it's another well, with the George Floyd thing, like every company all of a sudden put like a lot more DEI stuff going on. Like my company, like every corporation all of a sudden put a bunch of woke stuff in their company, which like you were never supposed to be political like that in every workplace,
Yep.
But and then, there's this whole thing with ESG and then so I think with that it was like and I could see this happening with any company. Like I did see a thing like saying the executives didn't know like that happened, and I can kind of believe that because like every company that has a DEI program, no one's really knowing what they're doing, because
Yeah.
like at my
I mean,
yeah
even if you take DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, people hear equity and they think equality.
yeah
They're not the same things. They're far from being the same thing.
yeah
And people, the whole DEI thing, it definitely has worked its way into a lot of areas. Like you were saying, ESG thing. I mean, it's in school. Even the DEI thing is in schools. It's everywhere. I mean, that's another battle we're fighting against the woke culture that you know that they keep bringing up.
yeah. I mean, I did see a more of a push at my job and every other, like honestly every job posting I see it mentions DEI. But then I have friends that still it hasn't really come up totally yet, like because they're mostly not near cities. But you said you've had personal falling outs and stuff over like woke
Yeah,
stuff.
I it's getting a little bit. I might have to pause for a moment.
Oh, okay.
Got kids and stuff running around. I tried to, but yeah, I had um I have family members that won't talk to me anymore. Sisters. Uh, yeah, I've had some direct blowback from this woke culture, friendships, family. I have sisters that talk to me when they have to, but that's about it.
Oh,
Because they don't. I don't. Any number of things. I've lost. I have a daughter that won't talk to me because of it. It's
is that
me.
like
Me. What was that?
sorry? Um, just for your opinions or like did you have a bunch of arguments and that's
No, have never had arguments at all about it, but they know how I feel about things.
oh
But again, in the end, I'm a libertarian. I really don't care what you do with your life
yeah
and how you live your life and what you believe and what you say. But when you start forcing it on me or telling me that I have to agree with a certain thing that you agree with, or else, well, I'm sorry, it's not going to work out too well for you. Um, you know, I mean, I don't let the I don't. Whenever the government says something like that, I question it. Whenever a person, regardless who it is, whenever a person says something like that to me, I'm going to question them as well. And that's all it is. Uh, I've never said anything bad towards any of my relatives that won't speak to me. I've never said anything bad towards my daughter,
Hmm.
but they know that I don't buy into all of their woke ideals. So, here we are.
yeah yeah I mean well you said it may have come up on dates too, like in
Yeah, I had, I had, I've gone out on a couple of dates with this woman, and we were getting along really well. We talked and had beers, had ice cream, went to dinner, this all kinds of good stuff. You do when you first start dating somebody. She immediately starts bringing up on our third date. She decides to bring up some political issues, and right away told her right off the bat, look, I'm a libertarian. I'm a libertarian. I really don't care what you believe, how you live your life, the things that you do. That's not my choice to tell you how to live.
yeah
She didn't like that. And she started,
Hmm.
well, what about, her big thing was the Chinese. She had this huge, I don't know what her deal was with Chinese, but she was like in love with the Chinese for some reason. I don't know. She said, well, what about, our relations with China? I was like, well, what about them? I don't care. It doesn't. I mean, I buy my stuff at Walmart just like hundreds of thousands of millions of other people, which most of the time it comes from China.
yeah
I said, but I do not, favor the CCP, the Communist Party of China. I understand that their governmental control over all their businesses and what they're doing to the Uyghurs. And as soon as I said the Uyghurs, boy, she was just like, "That's it, that's done." She didn't want to talk about, how China's mass slaughtering millions of people that won't fall in line. But it is what it is. Needless to say, she got up and walked out. And you know what the thing is? Our third date, she chose this. Our third date was at a place called Hamburger Mary's in Florida, and it is it's like a drag show burger joint. Got pretty darn good burgers, but the whole time while you're eating and drinking, there's drag queens all around dancing and singing and doing their bit. So I really didn't care. I'm like, well, whatever. But then after she started talking about China, I was like, oh, okay. Now it makes sense. Yeah. But so now anytime I am dating, the first thing that I have to bring out is, look, if you're gonna start trying to get me to believe a certain way, it's not gonna work out. I'm gonna tell you right off the bat. I always preface that now.
yeah was that around, I mean, was that around the pandemic when the
Yeah.
whole Asian hate thing?
Yeah, the whole blame it on China.
Yeah.
The
That
China.
was like
What is
2
that? How do you
weeks.
say it? Yeah. I'm like, wow. Because at the time I was living in Florida, and Florida didn't really cut back too much on anything.
Yeah.
Um, You know, I think had a few weeks there where we were locked up, but with the line of business I'm in, I was never locked up. I was always out working anyway. I'll tell you though, during that pandemic, during the the 2 weeks to stem or whatever it was, the spread, traffic was really nice. That was a major plus. I could drive someplace that normally took me an hour. It took me about 40 minutes to get there. I was liking it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Bill Burr posted something like when it was like early in the pandemic. I mean, people thought it would be pretty short. Like,
yeah, well, that's what they told us.
yeah, I remember. Well, it was things would go around like when it kind of started. Like, oh, look at the silver lining of being able to stay home with your family. You know, because people thought it would be like a month or something.
Yeah. Thought. A lot of places. Some places are threatening to go back under quarantine.
Oh.
You know, I mean, wow. I think I heard last time I heard was something was going on in Detroit where they were threatening to go back under quarantine if they couldn't do something. I don't know. Bottom line is,
Wow.
a lot of states and cities, their elected rulers got a taste of power.
Yeah.
And they went full bore with that power, and it's how it works. You know, you give the state a little bit of power, and they're not going to give it back. You know, and that's how in America the people are supposed to have the power, but little by little over the years we've given the state a little bit more of that power, and they're never going to give it back. I mean, that's why government is so huge now.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just it's ridiculous. You know, and when I look at the group of people that I still have in my life, um, we don't agree on everything. I mean, I have good friends of mine who we really disagree on a lot in the woke culture, but we can talk about it and not hate each other
Hmm.
and still have a beer afterwards.
Yeah,
And
that's good.
that's what we're missing nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of going away. I mean, there's like, it's like, if you follow anybody that is critical of woke stuff, like, I know there's like a few guys that are like sympathetic to it that can talk to people. But it's like you can count them on one hand. I mean, well-known ones like,
Yeah.
Those people that like you couldn't talk to anymore, were they like randomly political? Like before that, did they not even pay attention or like?
Yeah. And you know, the thing is, ever since I was in high school, I've had a political mind, you know, a culture. I've read about these things, you know, I've kept up on current affairs, and I've always been talking to my family and friends and people in my life about this.
Yeah.
And they would always tell me, some of the things I would say about the government, about, you know, taxes, some of the things that I would say about the state, they would always just blow me off. But now, you know, since this woke culture thing has taken over, yeah, a lot of these people that wouldn't listen to a word I was saying over their, you know, the last 3 decades are now, you know, all of a sudden, oh, you know, they're political, you know, majors. They know everything about what's going on. I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And you know, and these are the same people that now are starting to say that using the word woke is a slur.
Yeah.
You know, it's like what they say. It's the same thing as using the N word. I'm like, come on, are you serious?
Yeah. I
And you know,
mean, well, yeah, I saw uh, someone wrote an article about that, and also like how I guess one of their first tactics was like to say, "Oh, what is woke anyway?" Which is I got responses like that on Reddit, and
yeah,
I was kind of like, why are they all saying that? And now I'm like, oh, this is a thing they do. That's kind of how it. I don't know, and
It's gaslighting.
yeah,
It's exactly what it is. For so long we've used the woke term as, we know what it is, but we've never really put it into words.
yeah,
When you see it, you're like, that's woke. That's woke bullshit. Or I'm sorry, I don't know if I could cuss or not. That's woke bull crap or whatever. Um, but we've never really defined what woke is. And that's a big thing that I think that really needs to be done.
yeah,
A definition. It's basically we have to bow down to the new societal hierarchies that have been put in place by all these the less than 1% of the population.
yeah,
You know, I mean, you take for example, skin color was never a big deal. I was always raised, and I've always learned that you judge people like Martin Luther King did. You judge people by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin. But now, because of the woke culture, the color of the skin is what makes them important or not important.
yeah,
And it's the same thing with the LGBT community. The that whole community. It used to be that they just wanted their rights to be what they wanted to be with.
yeah,
But now it's so much more. You know that that is what makes them. It's not the type of person that they are, or how hard of a worker they are, or the things that are important that they hold important that we can all agree on. What's important is how woke they are, or who they love, or what they want to be called. That is what makes them or defines them. And that in itself, right there, explains what woke culture is. And if you don't agree with them, well, you're a bad person.
yeah. It's like, it's just. I mean, yeah, for a while it was called like SJW, like, and it was
Yeah.
more mocked back then. Like, it was like, oh, these like ridiculous people. Like, it's nobody, no one, everybody,
Yeah.
and even I did. I was like, oh, that's like no one. But then it just grew, and like, then like other stuff came out where you're like, oh, I guess there's like a real belief system, like with CRT and like,
Oh yeah.
uh, and
1961. ESG
yeah,
or 1691. I'm sorry. Yeah, the whole 1691 project. All of this stuff was born out of wokeism. It what was first sold as compassion. It was political correctness. You couldn't say certain things because
yeah,
out of compassion. You couldn't say the word retard because you didn't want to offend some people. You couldn't say dirty jokes in front of women because you didn't want to offend them. So it started off as compassion. Being politically correct. Well, being woke is now, it's the face of being politically correct. That's exactly what it is.
yeah. I mean, where like back then it was like, I mean, now it's like militantly PC,
Oh yeah.
but back then it was like, I mean, but even like the radical stuff now, like if it wasn't being forced into every sector of everything now, like
Yep.
you might just look at somebody that's like, oh, we should, like, I believe in intersectionality or whatever it is. Like, I would just go, oh, that's interesting, but that's too radical for me.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be upset about it. Like, same thing with the trans, like I talked about before. Like, really, the whole issue I have is just them going, well, no, that is a biological woman. Like, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, I mean, as soon as that started coming up, I was like, wait, this doesn't make sense. And I'll just like not think about it. But then it just keeps coming up. Like,
And
even
I think that's what so many people in America did.
yeah,
Even though they disagree, they're just like, it's not going to last. It's not going to last. But because we did that, they've taken control. You know, a very small minority, less than 1% of the population, their viewpoints are being forced on the rest of the country, and everybody's bought into it. They've used it as a weapon.
Yeah.
And it's the same type of weapon that Lenin used in Russia and Hitler used in Germany. You know, they're going after certain groups of people, making them believe a certain thing. Hitler went after the kids. You had the I can't remember what they were called, the Hitler Youth.
Oh yeah.
He turned a whole generation of youth into Nazis by indoctrinating them from an early age, which is exactly what we're doing now in our schools.
Yeah, I guess like yeah, because I was like over the pandemic, I was looking into like the Cultural Revolution in China too, where that
Yeah.
was all like a lot of young people were the most militant about it, like, and but yeah, like it was because of Mao, and this is all like, it's not like there's one guy, which I guess makes it more confusing, but it's like weird. I guess it just became like, why I'm see what good of a person I am,
Yeah.
or social media, or I don't know, like.
Yeah. I mean, if we use China as the example, I mean, people look to China for so many things there, but they don't understand what actually goes on there. I mean, first of all, they're a communist country um, that rules, like, the things that they do to their population, the ruling
Yeah.
class. It's outrageous. We would never, you know, allow those kinds of things knowingly to go on. Well, we might in America now, but we never used to. We would never allow that to happen in America. But people jump on and like, oh no, we got to protect China. Got to protect China.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm skeptical that that woman you mentioned would even know, like, or just block out all the like, I don't know how you would defend China. Like, I guess I get if she's like the people that are anti-Asian hate just as a blanket thing, because I'm
I
sure
don't
there was
really
people
know.
here that.
I never even talked to her after that. Uh,
Yeah.
I texted her a couple times after that, and she ghosted me. So I was like, well, I really didn't care. Wasn't that wasn't that involved with it, to really care too much. It was only a third date, so
Yeah. I mean, you really missed out there.
yeah. The only thing I missed out on is that she had red hair, and I like redheads, so.
Oh.
But
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I used to always kind of keep that stuff in, like, and I shouldn't have, like, I mean, I never got into big arguments. Like, there was one date I went on where, like, it was just like the girl was like, Louis C.K., like, I guess you should just never do stand up again. And I just disagreed. And it was like, that was kind of the end of it. So,
Yeah. Louis C.K., out of all the guys that got swept up in that, Louis C.K. didn't really do that much. Didn't do anything bad. He
no.
got permission before he did it. You
Yeah.
know, it wasn't like he was going out there doing stuff. He got maybe what he was doing was a little bit uncouth and yeah. But to each their own. I mean, he wasn't doing it without their permission.
Yeah.
But of all the people that got swept up in that, I think he's funny.
Yeah.
I like Louis C.K.
Yeah. I mean, at least he seems better now. I mean, because, I mean, yeah, for a while I was like, oh, I don't know, maybe he, but then I realized with a lot of that Me Too stuff, like, there were some, like, him and Aziz or whatever, there was some where you were like, okay, I think we're just all kind of blanket going, assuming horrible intent, like, because I mean, if there were more stuff after that, I would be like, oh, I don't know about him, but like everyone kind of just assuming like what you heard was exactly how it happened. Like,
Yeah.
and there was like what the only witnesses were him and the two women or whatever. Like, I mean, but with one,
And
like,
they,
yeah, you know,
and they both admitted that he asked first,
yeah,
you know, and they agreed. I mean, come on. I don't know. I mean, there was a lot of stuff that happened during that. I mean, they were jumping on top of everybody. Now, some of the people, like Harvey Weinstein, there were some people like that that really deserved to go down.
yeah,
And I can honestly say that most of Hollywood now probably deserves to go down even worse. But that's the wheel spoke of the woke culture. It all comes out of Hollywood,
yeah,
so
yeah. I
it is
mean,
what it is.
and then somebody like, yeah, I mean, the thing is like, not everybody spoke against him. I feel like somebody else brought up like I don't know. Some people were like, well, I think some people had an agreement with him and did agree to do,
Yeah.
you know. And then there was also like, vague stuff like, oh, it's not just him. There's so many more, but like nothing else has come out really of Hollywood at least.
Yeah, I mean, Hollywood has its own skeletons in it. I mean, the whole of Hollywood.
Yeah.
I mean, for how many years did who was it? Corey Feldman. For years and years and years, Corey Feldman was telling everybody that would listen that Hollywood was filled with a bunch of pedophiles, but nobody would listen.
Yeah.
No, Corey, you're just you're wackadoo. You're whatever. But he was right. I mean, it's coming out more and more that, I wouldn't say that a lot of these people are straight out pedophiles, but I mean, if you're in my mind, if you had a pedophile that's doing horrific things and you stick up for that person just because he's a so-called friend or she's a so-called friend, you're just as bad,
Yeah.
you know. And I think that is rampant in Hollywood. So both the doers and those people that want to stick up for the doers. And they don't call them pedophiles no more. They're called minor attracted
Oh, yeah.
people. I mean, woke culture. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, have you had any of that come up with, I don't know, your kid or anyone else, kids in
I
school
have
having?
I have two little kids,
Oh,
two younger ones, and I work my hardest to teach them what's right and what's wrong. And then when they get to, when they're old enough to think for themselves, when they're adults, they can make their own decisions on things.
yeah.
That's how things are supposed to work. Um, but they also know that I don't mess around. I don't play, with any of that. And people know if something were to happen to one of my children, boy, that'd be a dark day.
Yeah.
So I try and teach them as much as I can, and I have them learn what to do if something comes up, if something were to happen. Um, if I'm close, I'm the first person they're supposed to go to. If I'm not, they need to go to somebody else. But I need to be in the top 5 people that find out what happened. And if I can, I'll deal with it. But if I can't, then we'll let the proper authorities deal with it. But that's how I've taught them these things. I want to make sure that they understand as they grow up that this is what they have. This is a foundation that they have to grow on, kind of deal.
Yeah.
I don't want them buying into all this woke culture stuff that's pushed everywhere now.
Yeah, and I mean that did seem to kind of get people to finally speak up, like with the kid
Yeah.
introducing stuff to kids, like. And I just like, I mean, I don't have kids, but like my nieces and stuff, like, they definitely don't judge races or anything, like, because like I even did like before, I guess, being around. I mean, just from what I hear and like being around them, like they actually don't like. I actually thought before, I guess I had my nieces and stuff, like, uh, maybe kids do go, "What's that?" If they see a, I don't know, drag queen or something. I don't know, black person, and they don't normally see it, but I don't really hear of them doing that, and they live in like a rural area, so
Yeah, rural. Yeah, I'll get it right. Those communities are usually pretty good. I mean, because they're usually more tight knit.
yeah,
But more and more of these woke soldiers, I guess you could call them, are moving into the rural areas because they know that's where they're needed. These drag queen, what is it? All
story,
ages drag queen shows.
yeah,
Whether that they're popping up. I mean, I live in a small town, and one popped up here. Now, had I known about it sooner, I probably would have been down there saying something, but I didn't find out until afterwards. And are you kidding me? This is a small town.
hmm.
But they're going everywhere. They're trying to get the people to get there to influence, because there's always parents, and it's usually liberal white mothers that want to take their young kids to these shows, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah, I mean that some people are like, oh, they're just reading stories to them, but I'm like, what's the, like, it just doesn't make sense. What's the point of that? Who, I would have never even thought of that, like someone doing that. I don't think, like, it'll
Yeah,
be like the
have you
last thing I
seen?
ever invented.
I always ask people, have you seen drag queens?
Yeah,
They're not just like everyday, Joe Schmo people. They're really made up flamboyantly. They usually got these huge prosthetic breasts. And there was one I saw in the news the other day that as he was reading a story time, he opened his legs and his junk was hanging out. So I mean, come on. This is not things that are for kids. And we used to, as a culture, as a society, we used to agree on that.
yeah,
We used to agree that, okay, if you want to have your drag shows, that's fine. As an adult, if that's what you want to go do, then you go do that. I don't care. But the kids were the limit. No kids involved in anything. But we don't agree on that anymore, obviously, and uh, it's getting worse and worse. You know, and it's going to take people to actually stand up and say something, to speak out against it, in order for it to stop. Because for too long, we just kept turning our cheek and saying, "Nah, it'll go away. It's just a phase. It'll go away." It's not going to go away.
yeah,
In my viewpoint, what they're trying to do is they're trying to take over the country, and just like Hitler did with the Hitler Youth, you indoctrinate them at a young age, and they grew up believing in that filth, in those lies, and then that becomes their truth. And that's something we got to put a stop to. And as adults, in my viewpoint, as adults, as sane adults, it's our job. It's our only job that's important, is to protect those that can't protect themselves. And kids are among the most vulnerable in America, and we need to protect them.
yeah. Yeah, like I guess the pandemic and the BLM, I don't know, just that whole period made me like, you know, people really underestimate like how social shame and pressure are like so Like it's like the number one, I guess, fear people have. I don't know, like that they might be called racist for. Plus, the left keeps framing it incorrectly, where like somebody just reads like, "Oh, why would somebody be against anti-racism? What's wrong with that?" But then they don't know what it is exactly. It's just like an incorrectly.
But yeah, the whole anti-racist thing was another woke attempt. I mean, it's not enough to be against racism.
Yeah,
You have to be anti-racist, which is, I mean, it's stupid. I mean, let's just say what it is. It's stupid. You know, okay, I don't agree with racism. That's the bottom line. I don't care. You can call me whatever you want. I don't care. I'm not going to call myself anti-racist because it's antithetical to uh, anything that I believe in. So dumb.
yeah, like, and they all. I mean, every company and everybody, even that wasn't a company, was weird. It was like they all said the same religious sounding. They were like, I am not racist. I'm also like actively anti-racist and doing the work like that. And they just parroted that over and over. It was like, I mean,
That was.
and then like you look
I
into
remember
it,
seeing that a lot.
and the guy who wrote like the book or whatever, like where it comes from, James Lindsay talks about like how it's like you either admit you're a racist or you're being like there's no escaping the fact that you're racist. So like it actually negates its own argument.
Yeah, it's definitely something. The guy that what was Ibram X Kendi?
Yeah.
That's who wrote the anti-racism books. He he's a huge racist. And it's the things that they put out. That they were trying to say that was you need to be against because it was a white uh, characteristic. I don't
Yeah.
remember exactly. There was a whole list that they put out. If you're productive in society, if you're kind, there was a whole bunch of stuff that they put out that if you believe in these things and you do these things, then you're furthering, the white agenda. I was like, are you
Yeah.
kidding me?
Yeah, it
So
really.
basically, they're saying that anybody of color should just stay at home and be lazy. That's what it came down to. It was like, are you joking? It has to be a joke, right?
Yeah, it was like, I mean, it really did feel like that the Floyd thing happened, and then they just were like, let's go all in, let's push it as far as we can. And like, I mean, I know that popped up like they would have, well, even like a year or so two ago, like in the museums here, there was like it was all like Black Lives Matter stuff, like
Yeah.
um and they like it just like, I don't know, it was just all knee jerk. It was all too fast. Like they made decisions too quickly because that happened, and they were like, all right, let's do this, and then let's like
Yeah.
they.
Everybody's just jumping on a bandwagon
Yeah.
of what's popular now without looking, I don't know for sure, but I think that Ibram X Kendi I think he's a Marxist.
Yeah, I think so.
I can't be 100% positive about it, but I'm almost sure that he is. I mean, and that without reading anything else about what a person does when they're, a self-avowed communist, socialist, Marxist, whatever you want to call them, that in itself right there is enough for me to say, yeah, okay, I'm not going to listen to anything you have to say.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it was like around that time I looked up the Evergreen College stuff, and like
Yeah.
that Robin DiAngelo lady was in a lot of those videos. And then all of a sudden her book got put in everything, even like lists on my, on major companies' websites, like, oh, these are the important books. Like
White fragility. Yeah. Robin DiAngelo. She's something else too. And there's a whole slew of these people, that are like
yeah,
that. And they're the same people that are going to come out and say that capitalism is the worst, and it demeans people and it pushes people down. But I guarantee you, Ibram X. Kendi is a millionaire now because of capitalism.
yeah,
And a lot of these people are the same way. You know, Robin DiAngelo, if it wasn't for capitalism, she'd probably be nothing. Now she sells all these books about seeing whiteness and, what does it mean to be white and white fragility and all this crap. But she sells these, I don't know. I don't know if she sold millions of books or not, but she sells a lot of books because of capitalism.
yeah. I mean, a lot. I mean, some people talk about like that it's a religion, and yeah, I mean, so many aspects of how they talk. Really, like, I wish they would just label it a religion, because then you could just easily go, well, that's religious. I mean, talking about,
Absolutely.
well, they talk about whiteness like it's this magical force. And I guess the same with blackness or whatever they talk about. It's always like, well, I have to like, people have melanin and there's like a force of whiteness. It's like,
Yeah, it's magic.
yeah.
It's hypnotizing. It's so the whole idea behind it is just it's so stupid. That's exactly what it is. And I'll call it what it is. I mean, if people believe in that, if people really follow that and they think that is, I'm sorry, but I think you're stupid. You know,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, if you're blindly following these things and you don't have the wherewithal, the ability to go out and research things yourself and believe in things for yourself, I'm sorry, but you're stupid. I mean, we have this thing called the internet now. It's very, very well. It's very easy to find information on the internet. Unfortunately, a lot of it's skewed.
Yeah.
That's why I use the Brave browser because you can use DuckDuckGo as a search engine, and doesn't have those Google algorithms in it. But you can find stuff both sides. I mean, if you type in woke culture in the Brave browser and DuckDuckGo, you'll get a nice bunch of options where you can read both sides of everything
Yeah.
and make your own decision. So it's not that difficult to do research to learn these things, but people are lazy and just want to jump on the next bandwagon. Let's jump on the next social cause and see who we can go after next. It's basically what it boils down to.
Yeah. It's a lot like, I mean, yeah, it just became so dystopian, like Brave New World or something after.
Good reference. Take your Soma today.
Yeah. I've been like, I've been watching this guy, conspiracy guy. And yeah, a lot of it does seem like, well, on my podcast, I talked about, uh, the Dr. Day tapes, they're called. And it's just like old videos are kind of hard to find, but how like this guy was supposedly told people how society's gonna go, and it like seems like it happened. So, and me and my
Society
friend,
has definitely jumped in full. They've jumped into this whole thing full bore, and we're facing the repercussions now. I mean, look, they have a live action Little Mermaid coming out, and they changed the lyrics to the song to show consent. That Kiss the Girl song. They changed the lyrics to show that there was consent.
huh.
I was like, come on. I mean, not we don't not even going into the fact that they replaced a redhead girl with a black woman to play a
Yeah.
character that was traditionally based out of uh, European storytelling. Not even going into that, they're changing words to songs. Even Roald Dahl, a lot of his, the guy that made um, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and books like that, they're changing things in those books so that there's no offending people. I mean, come on.
Yeah. It's weird. Like it's like they're encouraging like a lot of the whole hookup culture is still really pushed, but it's like but make sure you have it's like don't offend
Yeah,
anyone. It's all these things at the same time. It's like
let's get a written contract before we go any further here. Maybe that's what I should have done to that one girl that was so pro China. On our first date, I should have had her sign a contract. No politics until
yeah.
our sixth date or something. I don't know. Until we sleep together or something. I don't know. But yeah. And to me, I think the thing that tops it all off now is the replacing of women with men that want to pretend to be women.
Yeah.
We have men playing in women's sports, men advertising women's. There's even men in advertising tampons and pads and stuff. There's men dressed as women, in lingerie ads.
Yeah, I
The
mean it does.
patriarchy has finally shown women that men can do everything better, even being a woman.
Yeah.
And it's ridiculous. Women should be. This is women should be livid about this. I mean, I don't get any woman that stands up and defends this. I don't get it. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, they are the loudest defenders. They're always the most like it's mostly women that are woke actually. I mean,
Yeah.
and that still wear masks too here.
Yeah. Yep.
uh it is like it does get hard to avoid these kind of topics like even at a work like even at work meetings, you know, I've heard like, a coworker's kind of like, "Well, I want to go see the new Harry Potter play, but I don't want to support J.K. Rowling because I know trans people or something like that." And I was like, "What?"
Yeah. What? Who cares? It's entertainment. Go and enjoy yourself.
Well, it's also like, okay, there's trans people, then there's like there's like a million letters to the LGBT.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, but by association, I might know a adjacent to trans person. It's like,
Yeah. You have to go down the list. Oh, am I going to offend somebody? I don't know. And growing up, I'm almost 50 years old. Maybe hitting 50 here in a few years. Um, I grew up in the 80s, in the early 90s. I had a lot of gay, lesbian, and bi friends. It was no big deal.
yeah,
We hung out. Some of them went to do their own things, and I went my own way, but it was no big deal. But now the there's no LGB no more. It's LGB alphabet, and a lot of the older gay guys that I talked to that I knew back when I was like 19 and 20, they have they have no love in their heart for anything that is comes after the LGB.
yeah.
They disagree with a lot of everything, all this other crap that's going on. A buddy of mine in Ohio told me that as far as he's concerned, they're just trying to hijack yet another movement and call it their own. And he was specifically talking about this whole trans movement going on right now.
I mean, like, I get that that's like, well, for a while, like, I don't know, it's like, oh, that's too touchy of a subject. Like, even when, like, somebody on Reddit was messaging me, like, look, I understand how woke people can be annoying, but I don't want to touch that trans issue. Like, and I'm like, okay, but that's like the number one issue. Like, that's what is going to cause the most conflict, definitely. Like, and also, like, I'm, for a while, like, you even start to, like, I even started to go, am I a bigot? Because, but then I'm like, no, I only, like you said, like, it's like, yeah, do whatever you want to do. But once they started saying, no, we're literally the same as a woman, I'm like,
Yeah.
why do we have to pretend? Like, I mean,
Yeah. I mean, you can call yourself. I mean, you can call yourself a, you know, non-binary deer if you want to. I don't care.
yeah, it's a,
It's your life, but do not force the rest of the world to try and accept that.
yeah, I think it's also, they go, no, trans women are women, but they're not, it's saying biological, but that's what they mean. People, I didn't think that's what they meant for a while, but they want,
And this is where women should be pissed off.
yeah.
You
I
know,
mean, there
I
are
mean,
some, like, I follow some on YouTube, and like they do, they're the called turfs, and they do little beaches. They do go to different cities, but they always get, first of all, they always get assaulted. They always
yeah,
get, and it's not enough of them, I think, because the women that are trying to defend the on the woke side, they're so loud that I think they drown out the women that are actually trying to take a stand or something.
yeah, yeah. I agree. I mean, it's there was that one girl. What was she? She's like from Australia, I think, or something like that. Recently, she did. She was going to do a talk at a university, I think, and she just got totally bombarded.
Oh yeah,
I mean, there's even that one swimmer that just recently came out to talk against Leah Thomas swimming against them. And look at it. I mean, she got assaulted.
yeah,
And I'm like, dude, are you kidding me? And this is what they preach inclusivity. You know, they want acceptance. They accept everybody, and everybody should have the same rights, and everybody should be able to do this and do that, unless you disagree with them, and then they'll kill you.
yeah,
Quite literally, they've said these things. So, I mean, I don't know about you, but when somebody says because you disagree with me, I want to kill you, I take them for their word at what they're saying.
yeah.
You know, I mean, at some point you have to. At some point you have to say, okay, you went a little bit too far there. You know, now I need to start looking at protecting mine and my own, because I don't know if this person's going to show up at my doorstep because I disagreed with them.
Yeah, and
You
the
know,
thing is
and we
they,
we used to be. Go ahead.
uh, yeah, like they, I guess to them it's not a disagreement. It's like, no, this is life and death.
Yeah, yeah. But and that's another thing, the breakdown of conversations. We used to be able to sit down and have these conversations with people we disagreed with,
Yeah,
and we mentioned that earlier. It's virtually gone now. You know, but
yeah. I
yeah,
mean, yeah, like now, I mean, it's just it's more apparent that they are getting violent. Like, I mean, and like even in their language, like the one actor, like Steve Van Zandt or something, the guy from Sopranos, he like tweeted something like, "We need to take out." I forget what words he
yeah,
used, but then he tried to play it off. I'm like, no, this is. I mean, there's nowhere else to go if you keep escalating.
yep,
Like,
yeah. I agree. It's eventually all of this that's going on is going to come to a head,
yeah,
and my hopes are that it will go away peacefully and quietly. much like it came in. I'm not one to espouse violence. I don't believe in going out and doing anything, which is why I hope that this goes away peacefully and quietly.
Yeah.
And eventually, one way or another, it's going to. I just really hope that there's not more violence. We've already had, we have school shootings. We had the school shooting a week or two ago in Tennessee. We don't need this stuff anymore.
Yeah.
We really need just to be human beings. You love people for who they are. We don't not loving people or judging people based on the color of their skin or who they love or who they sleep with or what they look like on the outside. We need to go back to judging people by the content of their character, by the way that they live their lives. And that's just what I think.
Yeah. Well, that's a little extremist for me, but no. Yeah, that's getting
Oh.
weird too, where people are getting upset at actors for like the Stranger Things girl for getting engaged because she's too young, and maybe because they wanted her to be gay or something. I don't know.
Yeah, every time they paint somebody a certain way, and when it comes out that they're not that way, Hollywood turns on them very quickly.
Yeah.
Like recently, the big thing with, I don't remember what that girl's name was. It was in crap. What was that one show that just came out? Last of Us, Last Among Us, Last of Us, something
Yeah.
like that. That girl, they went on this whole thing with how she had to wear bindings and how she felt more comfortable not being. Who cares? You're an actress that's in a movie that's supposed to entertain people. I don't want to hear about all this other stuff. I really don't.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, just to start off with, I'm not the biggest fan of Pedro Pascal, but I watched it anyway, and it wasn't a bad show. Pedro Pascal is a good actor.
Yeah.
I dislike him for personal reasons, but I'm not saying that I'm not taking away from his acting abilities. The show was a good show, but all this other stuff that started coming out afterwards about the girl and how they acted and how this, I really don't care about all this stuff. I really don't.
Yeah. I mean, I was skeptical because I know the like second game was controversial because it maybe had a trans or it had some weird political stuff in it. So I
Yeah.
know that eventually
I
the
never
show
played
is
the
gonna.
games. I don't even know.
Yeah, I haven't. I just know when the second came out, it was like this weird.
Oh yeah.
They made her real butch, but people thought, oh, is she trans? It would just. So I think the show will get weird. I think, but I don't know. Maybe not.
Yeah, that's I have an upcoming episode on my podcast. I have two sons, and they played the game and they watched the show. So we're gonna do a discussion on the show
Oh,
with
cool.
me, which I've never played the games. I had no idea what the games were about. But watched the show, and I thought it was pretty decent. But we're gonna have a nice drawn out discussion on that. I don't
Oh,
know
cool.
when, but hopefully soon.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't want to keep you too long, but
Okay.
yeah. Thanks for coming. But I mean, have you noticed? I don't know. Even with horror movies, like I do notice agendas being put in there.
Yeah,
You know.
there's definitely, and honestly, with horror movies, there've always been walking that line between um, one side of things as opposed to the other. Politically and culturally. Horror movies have always been that way,
Yeah.
and even nowadays, one of the things that I enjoy. I don't care if you put a gay character in a horror movie or a trans person in a character in
Yeah.
a horror movie. I don't care. What I care about is is the story good? Is it drawing you in? Are you focusing on these people because of what they are, or are they just okay? You got a trans person just getting killed by Jason Voorhees, or whatever it is. Uh, if you're introducing these characters and you're focusing on this character, it's going to be a terrible movie.
Yeah.
But if you bring these characters in and you just let them play in the movie just like everybody else, oh god, you let them play along in the movie just like everybody else, you can have a good movie.
Yeah.
But do you watch much horror?
Yeah. Yeah. Me and my family do.
Yeah. What's your favorite horror movie?
Um, I don't know. Maybe The Shining. I also like the recent guy who did like Hereditary and Midsummer and stuff.
Nice. Midsummer. I like that one. That's a real good movie.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I might have to have you come on my podcast and we'll do a movie.
Yeah, that would be cool.
I like Hereditary. That's a good movie. And I hope I wasn't too long-winded. I like to talk about these things sometimes.
Oh no, that's okay. I usually go too long too, so.
All right, brother.
Yeah, thanks for talking and
Absolutely. Anytime.
yeah, I mean it's hard to talk about this stuff with people. A lot of people are shy away or they just,
Well, I'll tell you one thing, I do not shy away from much. So
that's good.
that's a fault at times, but that is me. So
All right, yeah, have a good weekend and stuff.
you too, brother. Well, I'll talk to you later.
Okay.
Bye.
Yep. Thanks. Yep. Thanks. Yep. Thanks. Yep. Thanks.
Yeah.